Hello and welcome to Ausbiz Capital Investor Connect. Today we're speaking with Argenica Therapeutics and CEO Liz Dallimore joins me now. Liz, you've just published preclinical study results for use in brain trauma injuries. So what's exciting about it?
Yeah, so we recently announced some more preclinical data in traumatic brain injury. What's really exciting is, first of all, this data validates a study that we had conducted in 2023, which we announced to the market, showing the ability of ARG-007 to reduce key biomarkers that we see in the brain that really sort of indicate the level of severity of injury, reducing these biomarkers back down to normal levels, non-injured animal levels. So what's great about this study is that we were able to repeat those findings, which really does confirm how well the drug is working at protecting the brain against injury following TBIs, which would be akin to things like a significant impact to the head, say during a motor vehicle accident or a really heavy type of concussion caused by a fall, for example. So really exciting to see this data repeated, this consistent ability of the drug really to reduce these biomarkers and that level of injury, which is exciting.
And I see the company is also investigating the potential use of 007 in other neurological conditions. What are those?
Yeah, so our lead neurological indication is in ischemic stroke. So ischemic strokes make up around 85% of all strokes, and they're caused by a clot in a blood vessel in the brain. So this is our most progressed indication. We're coming to the end of dosing in what's known as a phase 2 clinical trial in 10 hospitals across Australia. So as stroke patients come into the emergency department in these hospitals, if they are eligible for our trial, then they will be either administered our drug or a placebo saline injection on this trial, and then we'll do some imaging of the brain and see really how safe our drug is in ischemic stroke patients, but also how well it is working at reducing brain injury following stroke. We have some other indications that we are looking at preclinically in animal models, one of those being hypoxic ischemic encephalopathy or HIE. This is a rare pediatric condition and usually occurs during childbirth, and it can be caused from things like the cord wrapped around the baby's neck, preventing blood flow and oxygen to the brain in these babies. So we've got some really compelling data in a number of rat models in HIE. We're now conducting studies in larger animals, in piglets and lambs, which are more akin to the clinical setting that we see in newborn infants. So hoping to have some more of that preclinical data out at the end of this calendar year.
And you just mentioned phase 2 of that clinical trial in stroke patients. So how long a pathway to phase 3?
Yeah, so we anticipate finishing dosing in that phase 2 trial in early Q2 this calendar year. We have about a 4.5 month lead time, which includes a 3-month follow-up of those patients. So we anticipate to be announcing the top line data to the market in Q3 this calendar year. Once we have a look at that data, that will really help us inform what the design of a phase 3 clinical trial will look like. There are a number of things that we are already doing to prepare for the phase 3. So we do have a reasonably long lead time on manufacturing of the drug for the phase 3 because we have to move it to a commercial grade facility, a facility that can actually scale up to commercial quantities for a phase 3. So we have started that process. We're already starting to engage CROs, sites in the US, Europe, for example. So we anticipate hopefully by mid-2026 that we, if all goes well with the phase 2 trial, that we could be dosing in a phase 3 trial.
And an R&D tax incentive meant that cash flow positivity last quarter was around 15 million. So with that in the bank, how far will that stretch?
Yeah, so it was really pleasing to have so much cash in the bank at the end of December, especially as we're quite far progressed in that phase 2 clinical trial. So that 15 mil gets us well beyond our data readout for our phase 2. We will have obviously another R&D tax rebate coming in at the end of this financial year, which will be relatively sizable as well. So plenty of cash in the bank at the moment to see us through to the end of the phase 2 trial.
And is there something such as cost control when it comes to this early stage research? Is it such an expensive endeavour?
Yeah, look, it is an expensive endeavour. I think what Argenica has done so well is conserve cash. So our cash burn has typically been around 2 mil a quarter. That will ramp up as we start to close out the phase 2 clinical trial. We have a number of sort of invoices that come in at the end. But we have been really lean with cash. One of the reasons that we have decided to do the phase 2 all in Australia is obviously the R&D tax rebate, which is fantastic to get 43.5% of your R&D spend back in cash, which is great. But it's also cheaper to do that sort of study in Australia. We're a very lean team at Argenica as well, so it's really myself, a VP of Clinical, VP of Product Development, driving pretty much all the activities essentially in the company. So very low overhead, and we do just direct all that cash to the value-adding activities in Argenica.
And you have philanthropic support as well as grants. Will that continue?
Yeah, absolutely. Non-dilutive funding is a key pillar of our funding strategy. So we will continue to look at opportunities to apply for grant funding. We engage quite heavily in the philanthropic community, especially here in Perth, and they're an absolutely fantastic community to be a part of, and just so generous in terms of the money that they do put into medical research. So absolutely a key pillar of our funding strategy going forward, to try and attract as much non-dilutive funding and save shareholder dilution as much as we possibly can.
And your shareholder registry is quite interesting. You're a shareholder along with UWA and some institutions including Euroz Hartleys MLC, as well as the Turkish asset manager. So how supportive are your biggest shareholders?
Yeah, so our top 20 shareholders own around 37% of the company. Myself, our previous chair, we are reasonably large shareholders, so very supportive. We have UWA and the Parent Institute, which are essentially the research institutes where the drugs spun out of, who are very supportive shareholders. We have some extremely supportive family offices in there. So I'm on speed dial with the top 20 all the time, keeping them informed, engaged, updated. They're all really excited about the future of Argenica, and not only obviously the potential return that they can get on that investment, but also the lives that we can change with this drug, which would be absolutely phenomenal.
And you've got a huge addressable market, but the holy grail, of course, is ultimately FDA approvals. So how are you engaging with US regulators?
Yeah, so we put in our investigational new drug application, which is what is required to get this drug into clinical trials in the US. So to be able to get a drug approved in the US, obviously we have to do clinical trials in the US. So that is a key part of our strategy. With that IND application, we'll also be applying for a fast track application or fast track designation. This is where we would get more interaction with the FDA as we start building out that clinical trial program for that global phase 3 study. So we're close to submitting both of those applications, and that will really open the door to more consistent engagement with the FDA to work with them as we look to get this drug approved in the US.
And so, Liz, what makes your treatment novel?
Yeah, so ARG-007 has a really unique mechanism of action. So it really is the only drug in clinical trials in neuroprotection that is able to reduce that really acute phase of the injury in ischemic stroke, traumatic brain injury. So the way it's working is on a endocytotic type of mechanism. So we believe that it's blocking the little channels on the brain cells where the calcium floods in post-ischemia, post-traumatic brain injury, and hibernating those brain cells, so really sort of protecting them from any further damage. So a really unique mechanism. The drug is covered by multiple patents in terms of both the structure of the drug, but also the various number of indications in neurology as well. So, it's nice to be working with such a novel drug and be one of, only a couple of companies globally that is this far progressed in neuroprotection in stroke in particular.
And so what's your focus right now? What are you most excited about in 2025?
Yeah, the key focus of the company really is to finish dosing in the phase 2 clinical trial. So we're only a handful of patients away from that. So working really closely with the hospitals to finalise dosing, working then with our CRO around that, making sure we have a fantastic data set, getting that data locked down and starting to analyse it as soon as we possibly can and get that results out to the market. And the other key focus really is on partnering discussions. So a lot of work that I will be doing in the next 6 months is that partnering engagement. So we are under CDA with a number of global pharma partner companies and we'll continue to progress those discussions and bring more of those potential partners under CDA as best we can.